Hello everybody, welcome back to ClearSurf Financial Education, and today I wanted to go over a little bit about what happened last week. And if you know, in the prior videos, I'll post those, I talked about Square and I talked about Quantum really moving stronger. And then last week we saw a big, not a correction, but the NASDAQ actually was down 4.9%. So almost 5% last week. It was down the hardest by far. The NASDAQ definitely you're starting to see some wind come out of the sails. So all those FANG stocks that have been working for the last year, if you noticed, Apple, Microsoft, Netflix, Google, Amazon, they're not anywhere near their all-time highs anymore. They were up kissing new highs, it seemed like every week. And then Microsoft and some others pulled back. Apple, I saw particularly. But there was a piece that came out that Warren Buffett's newsletter showed what he got rid of. And he still is the second largest holder of Apple, but he started dumping shares, and that news came out last week, which has accelerated Apple's move to the downside. So it had already been moving down for a week or so, because I've been looking for an opportunity to buy Apple and Microsoft on a pullback. And then, like I say, every 2 weeks they kept coming in. And then I did notice Friday, it really looked kind of ugly towards the end of the day, but volume-wise, Apple was in the top 5 of stocks that I watch. And so I thought to myself, wow, is that really an indication they're getting ready to dump this thing? And here it turns out, boom, Monday morning, market rips higher, biggest day up since June. So it was a big move, and Apple was up $6 or $7 from what I saw at the end of the day yesterday. So you started seeing some rotations, because Boeing and Deere, Caterpillar, the banks, all those stocks started moving up. And this was a play on inflation, and actually inflation fears, I should say. Because if you look at the 10-year and even the 30-year, yields last week were going up. That's why the market rolled over. Yields on the 10 and the 30, even the 5, were rising. And what happens basically, people look at that as if, well, for rates are rising, the bond market is much bigger than the stock market. It always drives the market no matter what. And that fear was, if inflation starts ticking up and the Fed waits too long to pull back on all this accommodative free money that's flowing everywhere, then the stock market would take a hit. So that's what was going on last week. The market was getting a little bit fearful of this. And you got to remember too, February, March, decent months, but we're going to come into summer here soon, and it's going to be a little bit slower, I believe. That's generally what happens. Now, another big thing too yesterday was Johnson & Johnson came out, and they had this vaccine that's approved. It's coming out actually yesterday and today, I think, or today might be the first shipments. But it's a 1-dose vaccine by Johnson & Johnson, and they are making 100 million vaccines available. So before we were talking about 1 million, 2 million, it got up to 10 million. I think 15% of the population right now is vaccinated. But now with Johnson & Johnson coming on board, which is one of the biggest producers, they can put out a lot. Like I say, they're talking about 100 million vaccines in a matter of months. So this is going to be refueling the boom again. Because yes, those people that work in air pilots and cruise ships and anything that's dealing with travel or leisure or restaurants, they still will be suffering those jobs. That's where most of the job loss have happened. But for the rest of the economy that was able to shift and work from home, well, those stocks are still working. I saw this morning Zoom just put out an unbelievable number. I don't really have it in front of me right now, but the numbers were off the chart. That stock's going higher. It's been pulling back, and it's just a runaway freight train. I mean, they're hitting. Talking about a company going public at the exact perfect time. They went public right at the beginning of this pandemic, and it is just blown up. It's up like another $25 this morning and after hours. So they're just knocking out of the park. You looked at Target, reported fantastic numbers. It's just crazy. And so all these stocks that had been doing really well are still doing well, but then you got to look at others that are starting to, like I say, Apple, Microsoft, they're kind of pulling in a little bit. But Disney is the other one. Looked at unbelievable, 195 I saw this morning. So there's a company that no one was going to the parks, and you think that sports weren't being played full scale early on, and yet they shifted and started their subscription business online, and they're just knocking it out of the park. Disney's still just going higher. Now, if you remember, I mentioned last week I had my eyes on QS Quantum, which is a play on the cars. Tesla had been pulling in. It's down a couple $100. It had a big day yesterday. So now I'm looking at, are we gonna see this pop? This one-day pop wiped out all of last week's losses, basically. So now what we're starting to see is the moves are getting bigger. The reason why I say this is I saw some charts the other day, and again, this is for my long-term folks, retirees. Don't make any drastic change right now unless we get like a 10 or 20% pullback. Then we might want to look at that. But otherwise, you still want to hang in there. But for those folks that are a little bit more, trading a little bit more, Square had come back and kissed 220. That was at 180 just a week and a half ago, I believe it was. So I had bought in at like 250. And, you know, it was pulling back, and it had me in the negative there for last week, good part of last week. And then had a $10 day yesterday. It's $10 up over hours. I'm back to even. So just in 2 days, a day and a half, really, this trade is back in the money. So that's a stock I think is going to go higher because they just announced that they're going to have a banking arm. So I had mentioned in prior videos to look at PayPal and Square. Now this announcement, they're going to have a financial arm that Square is actually going to lend money to people that use its service, businesses that use its service. So everyone thought before, oh, they're only going up because Bitcoin's going up and you can buy cryptocurrency on their platform, and their CFO bought cryptocurrency for their balance sheet. So yesterday with the pop in assets, you have a pop in cryptocurrency, and now it's bank information. Square's not done. So that's one of my top picks right now. I'm in that one, and I might actually be buying some options just to get a little bit more push on that one. I'm gonna watch this open closely because it's gonna be a pullback. I mean, we had Dow was up 600 points yesterday, so don't be surprised at all if the market comes in on Tuesday morning. It might pull in because you're gonna have some people selling on the open to lock in their profits because they ran that thing up since Friday. If you're a trader bought on Friday and your stock's up $20 or 10%, and some of these stocks I've seen are up 10% since Friday's trading. So there will be some traders locking in. It will pull in on Tuesday morning, but then we're going to look at from there. I'm going to be looking at the volumes, especially around 11:30 when the European markets close, because that a lot of times is either a shut off or an open for people to get in or out, because you lose part of the liquidity when you lose the European markets. So a lot of times markets rather than come down at 11:30ish, 10:30, 11:30ish, they get prepared for that. Today I'm thinking might be the opposite. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, so look at Zoom. Look at PayPal's probably going to follow on the heels of Square. I'm in Square myself right now, but I'm going to look at Apple closely too. That was a big move yesterday. So that stock's down about $20, and yesterday it picked up 6 or 7. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some more buying in there, because I know Warren Buffett said he dumped it, and I say he's still a second biggest holder. He dumped a major portion. Bill Gates came out and said he also got rid of some. And then Cathie Wood, which has one of the most popular followed funds, or a number of funds right now, she actually also said she got rid of Apple. So I have a feeling with all those people dropping Apple, and you had this huge move yesterday, you might have some other people come in there that are cherry picking, that are thinking like, hey, people that bought it at 130, 140, you had a chance to buy it at 125 on Friday. And I think that's what happened. So watch that one closely. And Microsoft is another one I've had my eye and I've mentioned numerous times. Microsoft, I made a mistake yesterday. Microsoft came in. Market was rallying, and the first 10, 15 minutes of the market, Microsoft went down. And I kicked myself because, wow, it took off. It was up $4, but you had a chance. I mean, you talk about getting in at a good price. Getting in on a day when the market was up 400 points and finished up like 600. At one point, it was up 700. So that's another one I think today. Great story. It doesn't matter if you're working from home or economy is reopening. You still have to buy Microsoft. And like for me now, I know for my business, I'm in the subscription plan for Microsoft. I used to buy software. I have it as long as my computer, which is, upstairs, I have a computer that's 7 years old. I bought the programs on 7 years ago, one purchase and done for $150. Now I'm paid $100 a year. Genius. I mean, anybody that can get into a subscription business, which Microsoft is doing, Apple is doing that with their monthly cloud fee that I pay, $3 a month. So look for anybody that's generating revenue, that's thinking of ways to get on some kind of subscription base. And like I say, so now you have Apple, Microsoft doing that. You've got Disney doing that. Anybody that gets into the subscription-based side, we have constant flow of money coming in, their stock is doing really well. And Apple and Microsoft have been a pullback. So as long as this market doesn't roll back over, those stocks are going to go higher. And I say that because we're seeing these big moves now. And I saw a chart the other day on CNBC, and it did show the last time this happened, when you've got the VIX popping up and you've got stocks that are now moving 300, 400, yesterday was 600. If that keeps up, that's usually a sign that you're starting to shake out. You're getting people that are worried about a rollover, and you're getting people that are trying to buy the dip. And when you see that, you get a lot of flux. And that usually sets up for some type of correction. Doesn't matter how far it's going to go. I don't know when it's going to come. I can't say. But that's why I say I'm going to watch this open. But for right now, look at the stocks that reported really good numbers that are going to be hot. And that's going to be, that's truly going to be Square, Zoom, even AutoZone today came out. I guess everybody's back on the road again. AutoZone, fantastic numbers. So anyway, we'll leave it for there now, but we're going to watch this market closely on the open. But don't be surprised after last week, a lot of stocks got hit really hard, and people are going to start cherry picking, and they're going to watch for the volume on some of these stocks that were pretty much favorites prior to last week, and see if they don't get some attention. So until next time, we'll see you then.